Adrian, and today I'm here to bring you another book haul revisited video. This past Saturday was my birthday, but not all my birthday books have come in the mail yet, so I couldn't bring you a birthday book haul. So I figured I'd bring you a birthday book haul revisited video where I revisit my birthday book haul from last year in order to hold me over while I impatiently wait for all my birthday books. There were 18 books on that book haul video, so I'm not going to go into great detail about what these books are about. If you want to know more about what they're about, go check out the book haul video from last year or the wrap-up videos for the books that I have already read. I'll leave all of them in the description box for you below. The first two books on that book haul were Stalking Jack the Ripper and Hunting Prince Dracula by Gemina. I have since read Stalking Jack the Ripper. I read it in October of last year and I gave it a 3.5 stars. I remember I enjoyed this book mostly for the setting. I liked the late 1800s England. But I wasn't a huge fan of the story. I found it to be a little bit slow, as far as I can remember. Like I said, for more information, go down below and check out the wrap-up videos. Hunting Prince Dracula, I have not yet read, but I am planning on reading it in the month of October, so spoilers for my October TBR. Next up is a book that I tried to read, DNF'd, and have since unhauled, and that's The Wednesday Letters by Jason F. Wright. This book was, in theory, seemed pretty interesting about writing letters to your kids finding letters after their dad has passed away. But it read like one of those really boring Lifetime movies. I just couldn't do it. I think I read maybe 30 pages and gave up on it. Next up on that book haul was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I have since read this book. I read it in November of last year. It got a 5 stars. This also was my favorite book in 2017. I'm not a huge contemporary fan. I'm also not a huge romance fan. But these contemporary romances are heartbreaking and thoroughly enjoyable, and Colleen Hoover is probably one of my favorite authors now as far as contemporary books go, so definitely worth the read if you have not yet read it. And then we have The Heir by Kiera Cass. This book was on several of my TBRs this year, but I have not yet read it. I've heard that it's not that great, which is sort of not motivating me, but I did enjoy the selection series for what they were. They weren't my favorite books, but they were good enough, and I am curious about The Next Generation, which is essentially what The Heir and the Crown is. It's just sort of a continuation / spin-off series of the original selection series. And then we have Written and Read by Anne Bishop. This is the one that I ordered that I didn't realize was a pocket edition, and I am visually impaired, for those of you who don't know, so these are really tiny prints, and they're really tough to read, so I'm probably never going to read this one. I probably should unhaul it, but I do want to read the book. I just need to get my hands on a bigger copy. Next up is Our Dr. Wet by V.E. Schwab. This is the second book to the Monsters of Verity series by Victoria Schwab. I still haven't read the first one, which was The Savage Song, so I haven't yet read the second one. I need to do so. I very much enjoyed Victoria Schwab's books, so I don't know what's putting me off, except the fact that I have too many books to read. The same thing goes for The Winter's Kiss by Marie Rutkowski. I haven't read the first 2 books yet, but this is the third book to the series, so I wanted to have the entire series so I could binge read it. Never did. Finally, another book that I did actually read, and that's Ice Like Fire by Sarah Rosh. This is the second book to the Snow Like Ashes trilogy. I actually binge read this entire trilogy in April. I enjoyed them. They were sort of easy YA fantasy reads. If you're looking to get into fantasy books, this would be a good way to start. I gave this one a 3.5 stars. Wasn't my favorite series, but it was good. And then we've got Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. I actually did read this book. This was the one that I was afraid I would never get to because of its length. But I read this one. This was the first book that I read in 2018, and it got a 5 stars. And it's probably still one of my favorite books of the year so far. So it's living up to it. Great conclusion to the Shades of Magic trilogy. Same thing goes for Gemina. I read Gemina in the month of March. This is the second book to the Illuminae File series. I actually really love this one. I love this one more than I loved Illuminae, which is sort of unpopular. A lot of people like Illuminae better. Gemina was an okay book. I love Gemina the best from the series. I have since also read the third book. But this is one of my favorite books of the year, probably still my favorite book of the year. It was my favorite in my top 10 mid-year, so I think it's still my favorite book. It was pretty good. Then we've got End of Day by Claire North. This one I have not yet read. Claire North's books are very dense. They're very interesting, very thought-provoking, but very dense, and I've been not yet ready for a dense book. I feel like this could be a good winter book, although I would have had last winter to read it, but I feel like this could be a good winter book. I don't know, we'll see. Next up was a box set that I got for my birthday, and that was the Daughter of Smoke and Bones trilogy, and that includes Daughter of Smoke and Bone, Days of Blood and Starlight, and Dreams of God and Monsters. I have since read Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I read it in February. It got a 3.75 stars. I enjoyed it a lot. The middle was rough for me. If it weren't for the middle, I would have given it a much higher rating, but the middle I felt was a little bit rough. I do have the next book, Days of Blood and Starlight, on my September TBR. Not sure if I'm going to get to it. I do hope I do, but we'll see. Another book that I DNF'd, but I probably will finish up reading at the beginning of October, because I did get a little more than halfway through, and I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I just wasn't feeling it at the time, which was in August, and that's a book like Wildfire by Lana Popovic. I read this one. This was my book swap book from the book swapathon. My swap buddy sent this to me. It was one of my most anticipated releases way back when. I just didn't like it. Next up is a book that I would definitely like to get to read either this fall or this winter, and that is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I since, in my last big giant book haul video, have gotten the short story and the second book to the series, so I would like to binge these series this winter. I know they're big books, but alas, I have been dying to read it. I just have been putting it off, but I have been in the mood for big books lately. I've been reading a lot of big books lately, so I'm very excited to finally get to this one. And the last book that made its way into that book haul was A Torch Against the Night by Subhan Tahir. I have read this book this past month. I read it in August. It was fantastic. I gave it a 5 stars. I will say though, that this book was really tough for me to get into. First of all, because An Ember in the Ashes, which is the first book to the series, I read like a year and a half ago, so I couldn't really remember what happened, and I was feeling a little bit slumpy. So the second half I read through in like a day or two, but the first half took me like a week. So those are all the books that I received for my birthday last year, revisited. I'm very excited for the books that I've received for my birthday this year. If you haven't been watching them, go check out my 30-day reading challenge vlogs, because September I'm doing Sequel September and the 30-day reading challenge. And as of today, I'm hoping that the mailman comes with the first stack of books for my birthday. So if you want a sneak peek, go check out those vlogs. If you enjoy book haul revisits, give this video a big thumbs up. If you have not yet, I would love for you to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.